With us now. Hello to Mr. McFadden. Thanks for joining us on the programme. Well, they've listened. They're changing course. That can only be a good thing, right?
Well, it's a humiliation for the Chancellor and the Prime Minister. I mean, only yesterday the Prime Minister was giving interviews saying that she would stick with this policy. It was the right thing to do. And the problem is that the events of the last 10 days have been about more than one policy. The overall combined effect of this has been to destroy the Tory party's economic credibility, and even more seriously, to undermine trust in the UK economy. And the fear must be that millions of people will be paying the price of that for a long time to come.
Yeah, but the point is they get it and they've listened.
Look, this policy was not just a distraction, it was emblematic of what they believe, which is that if only you give more wealth to those who already have it, it will trickle down to the rest of us. That's not how you get economic growth. It's not how a modern economy works. Growth comes from all of us, from the efforts of everyone, and their damaging and reckless act will have undermined trust.
Yeah, but only
in the
this
UK
year.
economy, not just one policy, not just through one policy, but through the reckless disregard for the UK's economic institutions, from the Treasury to the OBR to the Bank of England. All of that has served to damage the UK's economic credibility, and that's a very reckless thing to do.
But isn't it a sign of a good leader that they realise when they've made the wrong decision and you turn on it?
But we never supported this policy. Of course, I think it's right not to pursue it. But even this morning, they haven't said they won't return to this. They haven't said they don't really believe in this. And remember, this policy was based on the idea that they would borrow money from those who don't have wealth to give it to those who already have wealth. That was the centrepiece of the mini-budget 10 days ago. It's a matter of values and it's a matter of economics. They've U-turned on one policy, but they haven't really U-turned on that belief, and there's no guarantee that they won't return to this in the future. And the real consequence
that's not my point,
will be paid for.
That's not my point. My point is they've realised that it's not the right policy, and so a sign of a good leader is to acknowledge that they've made a mistake and to change the plan.
A sign of a good leader would not have done this in the first place when they had plenty of warnings that inflation was already high, that pressure on interest rates was already on the upward side, and they chose to do a policy based on large-scale borrowing for unfunded tax cuts. And then the Chancellor chose to double down the day after it, or 2 days after it, and say they would do more of this. There'd be more unfunded tax cuts in the future. And that has caused long-term damage to the UK's economic credibility. It necessitated an extraordinary intervention from the Bank of England that could cost £65 billion in trying to prop up our pensions, which were in danger because of what they've done. And there can be no faith that the people who brought you these mistakes can now fix the long-term damage that they've done.
Not necessarily. I think you may be conflating issues there. The Bank of England's intervention wasn't because necessarily of the 45p down to 40p highest rate of tax. And, you know, to go back to my point about strong leaders, Keir Starmer, only in July of this year, he sparked a revolt within the Labour Party with his U-turn on the renationalisation of railways. I put it to you again that actually strong leaders realise when they're wrong and change course.
But I agree with you that the Bank of England's intervention wasn't just about the 45p decision. It was about the package as a whole, and most of the package as a whole is still there. So you're absolutely right to say that, Kay. The Bank of England's £65 billion intervention wasn't just about the 45p rate. It was about the idea that when inflation is already high and interest rates are already on the way up, you come along and you add pressure to both of those things through a large-scale mini-budget of borrowing £45 billion for unfunded tax cuts. So you're absolutely right to say that the Bank of England intervention wasn't just about one policy, it was about the package as a whole. And that's why reversing just one policy in it isn't enough.
And what about the second part of my comment, saying that good leaders know when they need to change direction, as Keir Starmer did?
Well, I don't feel that the events of the last 2 days have shown us we've got good leaders. I think they've shown us we've got reckless leaders, and that's not a good position for the country.
But you acknowledge that when somebody who is a leader has made the wrong decision, they are a strong leader if they acknowledge that to move forward.
I wouldn't use the word strong. They've made a reckless mistake here. They were warned about it. They pressed ahead for 10 days. It is better that they've changed their mind to press ahead. But strong is not the verdict I would use for the leadership that we've seen in the last 10 days. I think reckless is a more accurate word.
Had John McDonnell on the show earlier, and he said a lot of the policies of the Labour Party at the moment are built on the shoulders of Jeremy Corbyn. Do you agree?
No, I think we're going to be a very different party going into the next election than we were in 2019. And of course, that's the right thing to do because we had such a bad result then. We've not just got a new leader, we've got a new direction too. And both of those will be necessary if we're going to be in a position to win, which I very much hope we will be next time.
Chatting to quite a few youngsters, young people, I should say, when I was up at Labour Party conference in Liverpool last week, and they were saying there should be a role for Jeremy Corbyn in cabinet. Do you think it's a good idea?
No, I don't. But that probably won't surprise you, Kay. We'll have a different cabinet and or shadow cabinet and hopefully cabinet. But I don't believe that Mr. Corbyn will be part of either.
Should he have the whip returned?
It's a matter for the party processes, but I can't see that happening unless there's a change in attitude on his part to the appalling circumstances where we had to be investigated by the Equality and Human Rights Commission. That was a bad period in Labour's history. I'm grateful that we've turned the page on it now, and we've got not only a new leader, but a new direction. And both of those things were essential.